Life seemed perfect until I discovered the dark secret behind my wife's smile. Not only was she cheating on me, but our daughter had become a shadowy figure, working as a call girl. The betrayal became not only a family drama, but a path to self-discovery and retribution. Hello everyone! Not long ago, I had a wonderful family, a wife and daughter, for whose benefit I worked like Papa Carl. And now I don't want to see them both. And they both disgust me to the point of nausea. After everything I've learned for the past week, I've been staying with a friend. Pursuins took drastic experience. We work in the same firm together. Even though we've known each other since our first year at Polytechnic, we've built this company together. We've worked on projects together. His daughter is in her first year of law school in St. Petersburg, and 2 years ago, we buried his wife. We paid for her surgery, but alas, it didn't help her. During those 2 years, Emma did not get back together with any women. Not a wife, not a cohabitant, not even a mistress. He satisfied his physical needs with the help of girls of the oldest profession. Not once have I been called upon to reach out with me, but I so pass. For eggs during all my life, I never once cheated on my wife, and in my free time, which I had catastrophically little of, I tried to devote to my family. By the way, I am 39 years old, and my wife is 36, and my daughter is 16 and a half. And so that day after the weekend, Daima came to work grimmer than a cloud. By the look of him, he obviously wanted to tell me something, but he did not dare for a long time. But I asked him, is something wrong with his daughter? He said that his daughter was fine, but mine was not. Kim came to visit him on the weekend, and they decided to go to the sauna to party part. They got drinks, called the agency, made reservations, and one of the people who came was my daughter Vera. My mother-in-law's name was Nadia, my wife Luba, my daughter Vera. And now I have no love, no faith, and no hope. And my first thought was to punch my friend in the face. If it was a joke, it was a very unfortunate one. But it was clear from his concerned look that he was not joking at all. Dima said he pretended not to recognize her but called again to the agency, asked to replace the girls. Kim didn't tell me anything. He just said that underage girls were not his type. I replied that maybe he was wrong or just similar in appearance. But I did not believe that my daughter is able to fall so. My friend told me that he said what he saw and then sorted out himself, if anything. I can count on it. That same day, I got into my daughter's laptop, and it all checked out. I saw her relevant pictures, as well as a price list of different spectrums of those very services. God, the ground went out from under my feet. In the evening, when my wife and daughter were home, I made a scene. If only I had known back then what was next for me. My daughter did not even begin to justify herself, acted defiantly, said she was 16 years old, and she can sleep with whomever she wants and live as she pleases. And I would rather than meddle in her life. To begin with, better watch his wife. Luba shouted at her to shut her mouth, but Vera would not listen to her. When I asked her what she meant, she said, "You're horny, tanta." Horny for a year and a half, at least for as long as I've known. She said that mommy had a lover whom she did not hesitate to bring to our house, and when my daughter caught them right in the marital bed, she begged me not to say anything and demanded to stay out of my parents' lives. The daughter became embittered and also began to live her life as she saw fit. When my wife found out about my daughter's behavior, she shut her up by threatening to tell me about her lover and making conditions. She stayed out of her life, and I found out what my daughter was doing. She wouldn't keep quiet either. When I found out my daughter without my wife, she was completely out of control. She felt that she could do what she wants, and her mother has no right to tell her, because she had already shown me everything by her own example. First clubs, discos, boys, then rich lovers, and then it went downhill, and she went downhill, and his wife, upon finding out, kept silent because she was afraid of her own exposure. My daughter went to her room and locked herself in, and I had a tough conversation with his wife. She changed tactics. If at first she sat with her eyes closed and shed tears, then she decided that the best defense was an attack. She came down on me with accusations that it was all my fault, that I was me. And all the time at work, I paid little attention to her, that I stopped noticing a woman in her. And she wanted to be wanted and loved. But she also did not want to destroy the family. So she and her daughter uncovered for each other that I missed my wife and then my daughter because of my work. I couldn't listen any longer and punched my wife in the face. I asked her if she even realized that Vera was still a child, that she was only 16. I called Dimka and told him everything. He demanded that I gather my necessary things before he arrived and wait for him. I can't stay in this house. I might make a mess. He suggested I stay at his place for a while, because he lived alone and had plenty of room, and we could decide what to do together over a drink. Looked over a drink of tea. I threw some things in my bag. My wife fell on her knees, grabbed my leg, shouting that I could not leave now. Let's sort of decide together how to be in this situation, because we are a family. I replied that I no longer have a family. Tomorrow I'm filing for divorce, and that I will decide for myself. But I'll just say one thing, that I will not leave it so, that she and her daughter are worth each other. At Dima's house, I got wasted, screamed, cried, got mad. My friend patiently waited until I let off steam to move on to a more constructive dialogue that filed for divorce, as well as the division of housing and property. That's for itself. Then he offered to report this agency to the police, report that minors were working in this brothel, ready to go to and confirm it as a witness. Also, do not forget to mention that the wife, her mother, knew what her underage daughter was doing, namely selling herself, and in doing so, took no action. Hide it from me and from everyone. But the law enforcement agencies now deal with this agency and the ex-wife without 5 minutes. 8. Now what to do with the daughter? It is necessary urgently to isolate her. There are 2 options. either a specialized boarding school closed tight for troubled teens or psychiatric hospital. At my surprised look, he added, yes, exactly, a mental hospital, because girls with such a profession, or those who star in the corresponding films, have a broken psyche and not every one of them becomes normal. So now I am at a friend's house for the third day. I do not answer my wife's calls. The security guard at work told me not to let her on the doorstep. She came to my office twice. Maybe you can advise something, because if I do what the friend suggested, there will be no turning back. You may also ask, how is it, man, that you didn't notice your wife was cheating on you? I'll give you a few details. My wife told me she was spending the night at a friend's house or at a club. She was always covering for her, especially since she didn't go out that often. I wasn't aware of everything that was going on. I didn't know it all, you know? I hadn't been on vacation in 3 years. My job was my family's future. Achmiant. I grew up in poverty myself, and he myself. I didn't wish the same for my family. And there it is, gratitude. I'm in no way absolving myself of responsibility for what happened. I worked hard, went on business trips that lasted from a week to a month. Yes, it was certainly my fault that I spent most of my life at work and ended up not taking care of first my wife and then... Today, my wife still caught up with me. Caught up with me and sobbed that my daughter had left home without answering my calls. I said that I would find my daughter and straighten her out on my own, and that she had no place in our lives anymore. After the holidays, I'm filing for divorce. Dima said that they would use all of our connections and we would definitely find her. My wife said that she broke up with her lover and asked me to come home. I, so to speak, categorically refused her. I said that perhaps I would have forgiven her infidelity, but that she broke her daughter's life in order to hide her affair on the side. I will never forgive. You know, a lot of people who use the services of these call girls. I told this to a friend too. They don't realize that she could also be someone's daughter, someone's mother, or someone's sister. Just a palette, imagine this situation. If in the place of my faith, someone from your family, from your acquaintances, then decide whether to believe me or not. And now for the second story. In the darkness of the night, as pain and rage mingled in my soul, I made a vow no one would go unpunished. Risen by payback from my wife's lover maiming our daughter would be cold and merciless. This is the story of revenge that will affect anyone who tries to destroy our marital happiness. We were married when we were 21. We got married because we wanted to live together in my father's apartment, and her parents were adamantly against us doing it without getting married. Since my salary was very small, and she didn't work, we agreed not to have children yet. We had enough on our own. As soon as we started living together, I began to notice that my wife lied all the time. I will tell you how it manifested itself. Then some messages on the phone hides and erases, or for example, says she went to her mother, but she is going with a girlfriend to the store. How do I know? But I can explain. I put a program on the phone that is I could always find out where she was, and almost always she lied to me. But that's just the little things. The big lie lied to me. She decided to start her own business, to sew something there at home and sell it online. She spent all the money she made in quotes on herself because she thought it was up to me and my dad to support her. And what she did was hers, it was her own. It turned out that she was buying fabrics on her credit card. After which this woebegone businessman would sell everything she sewed below her in value, can you imagine, and spend it personally on herself. When I found out the credit card was already about minus $25,000 long, which is my annual salary net. And most importantly, she accidentally got pregnant. So what happened? It happens. Of course, we decided to keep the daughter 2.5 A few years later, once again, I accidentally got pregnant. Although at that time, excesses, I no longer trusted her pills and relied only on a condom to protect myself. It happened that way too, and negative thoughts began to emerge. If the first daughter is my copy, then the second is a copy of my mother-in-law, with nothing in common with me. She kept lying to me and constantly got involved in dubious adventures. My father saved us from bankruptcy twice by paying off her debts, which were certainly not mine. We fought a lot. The house was in a very bad state, dirty and not cleaned. Butcher is all the food was half finished. She played with the girls as if they were dolls and could forget to feed them or change their clothes. When I came home from work, everything fell on me. Last fall, it was no longer bearable. She also began to say that it would be nice to have a third child. In short, I was not quite adequate. After another quarrel, I just slammed the door and went to a friend, leaving my wife and daughters to their father's care. My wife was furious and immediately wrote on Facebook that we had broken up. Then she started writing all sorts of nasty things about me and whether she drank or something else. She wrote that she conceived both girls by cheating. She stopped taking the pill for the first one, and about the second one, she wrote that it was a secret for now. She also wrote that she was not going to move anywhere. I was ashamed in front of my father that I had set him up like that. It was agreed that she and the girls would live at her father's apartment for another year until the eldest had to go to school at age 6. I didn't know where I was going to live, since my paycheck had been put towards my wife's alimony and my daughter's alimony, leaving me with very little. I didn't have enough for a room anymore. Which for a couple of months, I was surviving on the help of acquaintances. He filed for divorce, but it was a long time coming. With us, if the mother is against it, it can take up to 2 years. And then this happened. After a month, she brought a guy in. It was her ex-boyfriend. My father said he would never set foot in his house. Still, he stayed with her and they slept in our bed for a couple of months. The boyfriend was unemployed, without a car, homeless, and also had a history of mental illness. He sat at home and just smoked pot. Then, under my father's pressure, they rented a tiny 1-bedroom apartment and moved in together. I went back to my father's apartment. It was a complete mess. She took out everything we had in common, including his father, of course. When I started taking my daughters to my place a couple of times a week, I had nothing to dress them in and nothing to occupy them with. She took everything away. She's new. There was no money. Dad was so mad at me that I signed our new car over to her. The car was bought by him, my father. I was left with the old wreck, and it seemed like that was the end of my story. But it wasn't. In May, all of a sudden, the police called. They called from the emergency room and said that my youngest daughter, 2.5 years old, is there with multiple concussion injuries. It was Friday night, the week I had to go out on business, and I wasn't picking up the girls. Attend anyway. They tell me that it looks like my little golden-breasted beauty has been beaten up. She's been beaten so bad, she ain't got no skin on her. She's vomiting and covered in bruises of different colors, from different times. Her legs, her tummy, her face are all gone. Both eyes were swollen. Her mother took her to the hospital and told them that she fell on Wednesday. But a policeman immediately determined that the child had been beaten and called me to temporarily take both girls to him. Which I did. The next day, I took the little girl to another hospital for examination. There she was urgently hospitalized, as they said that she was literally dying of brain edema. They put her under an IV and kept her like that for 5 days until she was able to take water and food on her own. My lawyer immediately applied to the court for the transfer of the pets entirely to me. My wife was awarded 2 hours a week for the girls, but only under the supervision of my mother-in-law or her brother. The boyfriend was put under investigation, but he claimed to be mentally insane, so they let him go until trial for now. Nevertheless, I continue to pay child support, as the bureaucracy is slow to switch. This is in theory, my wife will now have to pay child support to me, but since she doesn't work, she won't pay anything. Since I'm technically the one who left her, she's the injured party and has the right to withhold the divorce for 2 years. That's according to our state law. Anyway, I'm not getting married and never will again. And if they have a kid there, you can't pin it on me since we're officially divorced. Honestly, I never thought I'd be left with 2 daughters in my arms. Hard is not the word. Hired a babysitter for the days when my dad and I are at work. We bought all sorts of furniture and things for the girls. At work they chipped in and helped me out. Now I hate my ex-girlfriend terribly for probably cheating on me all this time, but even more for letting his bastard beat my daughter and not reporting it until the girl was dying. I hope they put him in jail or at least put him in compulsory treatment. He lives with her now, by the way. What kind of mother is that? And I had an urge to at least kill her boyfriend. Right, because he was the one who had laid hands on a 2-year-old child. He must have been in a drag race. You don't have to hire a hitman. I got a gun myself. It's legal in our state. But then I came to my senses because I'd go to jail and they'd give the kids to her or to an orphanage. I'd only lose either. And I don't hate my ex-wife enough to kill her. She's just a lustful female. Forget the property. Let her choke on it. My parents offered to take her and her granddaughters back, but without her boyfriend. She refused. How could she be without a stick? What was I looking at when I married her? I'd rather not say. I was a fool. And her parents knew that if we lived together for a while, I certainly will not marry. So they insisted on getting married. When I ran away from the family, they wouldn't talk to me. Neither did any of my relatives. But when it happened to my daughter, they didn't even believe it. They came to the hospital to see. They walked past me like I was nothing. They looked at the child's black face and left in silence. You could see by their faces that they were shocked, to put it mildly. I bring them my granddaughters once a week. They silently take them away, and 2 or 3 hours later, they silently give them back. I do not have any contact with my wife, and now my father-in-law and mother-in-law hate their daughter and me. They hate me because if I hadn't left, none of this would have happened. It's funny, isn't it? And I couldn't take it anymore. Now my dad and I both work for 4, like 2 real babysitters. Plus we both work. But it's all better than when my wife was around and moaning about how tired she was and how the poor girl couldn't get anything done. Yes, she probably spent all day with that bastard. Best not to think about it. It makes me shake. There's no way to fully terminate her parental rights yet. There's no probable cause for that. She's already been partially disenfranchised. In court, unfortunately, I still have about a year to pay her aliments. On her personally, but it's a small thing. And then that's it. Let's get divorced. She's on her own. I'm on my own. And I'll keep my daughters. She lost her daughters and her livelihood. I mean me. She'll sell the stolen goods. She'll have to work. She'll have to work too. That'll be a bummer. But I don't give a damn about her anymore, to be honest. And her personal life did not care as soon as I decided that I parted with her. Wasn't only it was hard to lose my girls. And now I have that too. What else do you need? Maybe I will meet another woman in my life. But at the moment, I'm not even attracted to intimacy. And by the way, I'm 27 years old. My relationship with my father and my family is getting better. They now see what she was like and are starting to understand me. But with my father, we now have a complete understanding. All of a sudden, I got a promotion at work, and my salary was raised by half. Life is getting better. The moral of my story is this. First of all, you cannot get married or make any life decisions if you are under pressure. If they start pressuring you, it means it's not right. You have to send them away right away. Secondly, if from the very beginning of life together, you feel that something is wrong, you have to break up right away and not care what your relatives and friends say. They will say it later anyway, and only you will be in a difficult situation. And thirdly, if it seems like you're being used, don't be lazy and don't play, let's see how much you trust me, but get up and check what's really going on there. That's me right now. And then there's this, you gotta get lucky. I haven't had any luck. And thank you for listening. I needed to get it out. Dear listeners, friends, I thank you for listening to this story, for watching this video, for subscribing to the channel, for giving us likes and dislikes, and for discussing each of our stories in the comments under each video. I'm grateful to you, and I wish you the best of health and family well-being. See you soon.